The King of Tigers, Act I. Spring 1943. The Eastern Front. Somewhere in the vast killing fields between Kursk and Kharkov, where Soviet and German armies bleed each other white across endless steppe. The ground is still frozen in places, winter refusing to release its grip despite the calendar saying April. Mud dominates everything else, thick black Ukrainian mud that swallows vehicles, exhausts men, turns battlefields into impassable swamps. This is Rasputitsa, the season of mud, when armies pause, when fronts stabilize, when soldiers dig in and wait for ground to harden enough for tanks to move again. In a German assembly area behind the lines, mechanics work on a new machine. It's massive, dwarfing everything around it. 56 tons of steel, armor, and engineering. The Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger I. The heaviest tank in the world. The most powerful tank in the world. The tank that will change everything, or so German propaganda claims. Hauptmann Michael Wittmann watches his crew prepare the beast. He's 28 years old, already a veteran of 2 years of Eastern Front combat. He started the war in a Sturmgeschütz III, an assault gun, effective but limited. Then Panzer IIIs, good tanks but outclassed by Soviet T-34s. Then Panzer IVs, better but still vulnerable. Now this. The Tiger. The answer to Soviet armor superiority. The weapon that will restore German dominance on the battlefield. He walks around the tank slowly, studying it. The armor is incredible, 100 mm thick on the front, sloped and hardened. Soviet 76 mm guns, the standard anti-tank weapon, they bounce off Tiger armor like thrown stones. He's seen the test footage, watched armor-piercing rounds ricochet harmlessly, watched crews fire again and again achieving nothing but sparks and noise. The Tiger is essentially invulnerable from the front. Only flanking shots, rear attacks, or lucky hits on weak points can penetrate. It's a fortress on tracks. The gun is equally impressive. The 88 mm KWK-36, adapted from the legendary 88 mm anti-aircraft gun that proved devastatingly effective against tanks. It can penetrate any Soviet tank at ranges exceeding a kilometer. A Tiger can kill T-34s before they're close enough to shoot back. The tactical advantage is enormous, overwhelming, potentially war-changing. German tank crews have spent 2 years fighting T-34s that outmatch their armor and guns. Now they have a tank that outmatches everything the Soviets field. The psychological relief is immense. But the Tiger has problems. Wittmann knows this even before the briefings, before the technical lectures, before the warnings from engineers. The tank is too heavy. 56 tons exceeds the weight limits of most bridges. Rivers must be forded, not crossed. The engine is powerful but temperamental, the Maybach HL-230 producing 700 horsepower but consuming fuel at catastrophic rates. The Tiger gets maybe 1 kilometer per 4 liters of fuel. In a country where fuel is increasingly scarce, where supply lines stretch across thousands of kilometers, this fuel consumption is crippling. A Tiger can only operate within about 60 kilometers of its supply base before running dry. The transmission is equally problematic. The mechanical complexity required to move 56 tons is immense. The gearbox, the steering mechanism, the drivetrain, they're all stressed beyond normal limits. Breakdowns are constant. Maintenance is endless. A Tiger requires hours of mechanical work for every hour of operation. The crews joke darkly that they spend more time repairing their tanks than fighting in them. And there's the strategic problem, the number problem. Germany produces Tigers slowly, maybe 25 per month. The Soviets produce T-34s in thousands, rolling off assembly lines in the Urals at rates German industry cannot match. Every Tiger lost is irreplaceable. Every Tiger breakdown removes a crucial asset from the battlefield. The mathematics are brutal. Germany needs every Tiger to kill dozens of Soviet tanks just to maintain parity. Anything less, and the numbers game destroys them. But right now, in April 1943, these problems are theoretical. Right now, the Tiger is new, untested in sustained combat, surrounded by hope and propaganda. German tankers believe this machine will change the war. German commanders plan offensives around Tiger capabilities. German soldiers look at these massive tanks and feel something they haven't felt in months: confidence. Whitman's crew consists of 4 men besides himself. Balthasar Wall, the gunner, a Bavarian farmboy with uncanny aim and nerves like steel cables. Bobby Warren, the loader, young, strong, capable of maintaining the brutal pace required to feed the 88mm gun. Eugen Schmidt, the radio operator and hull machine gunner, quiet, competent, reliable. And Heinrich Reimers, the driver, the most important crew member because the Tiger's complexity makes driving it an art form requiring constant attention and mechanical intuition. They've trained together for 6 weeks. 6 weeks learning the Tiger's systems, its quirks, its capabilities and limitations. They've fired hundreds of practice rounds, learning the 88mm gun's characteristics. They've driven across training grounds, learning how the Tiger handles, how it steers, how it responds. They've practiced crew coordination until they operate as a single organism, commands and responses flowing automatically. Now they're heading to the front. The Tiger Battalion, Schwer Panzerabteilung 503, is being deployed to Kharkov sector. Soviet forces are preparing an offensive. Intelligence reports massive tank concentrations, hundreds of T-34s assembling for attacks. The Tigers are meant to stop them, to anchor the German defense, to demonstrate German armor superiority. The journey to the front is difficult. The Tigers break down constantly. Transmissions fail. Engines overheat. Tracks throw their pins. The maintenance crews work frantically, repairing one tank while another breaks down. Progress is measured in kilometers per day, not hours. The Soviets could walk faster than this armored column moves. Whitman watches the countryside pass slowly. Destroyed villages, burned-out farms, mass graves marked by rough wooden crosses. The Eastern Front has consumed this landscape, turned it into wasteland. 2 years of warfare have stripped the land bare. No civilians remain, fled or dead or deported. Only soldiers occupy this territory now, Germans and Soviets locked in mutual destruction. He thinks about the war, about how it's changed since 1941. That first summer, the invasion, the victories, the certainty that Moscow would fall before winter. Then the winter, the terrible winter, when the Wehrmacht froze and bled and learned that the Soviet Union wouldn't collapse as predicted. Then 1942, the summer offensive towards Stalingrad and the Caucasus, initial successes followed by catastrophic defeat. Sixth Army surrounded, starved, destroyed. The myth of German invincibility shattered in the ruins of a city on the Volga. Now it's 1943. Germany is no longer advancing. Germany is holding, defending, trying to stabilize a front that stretches from Leningrad to the Black Sea. The strategic initiative has shifted. The Soviets attack, the Germans defend. This is the new reality. And the Tiger is meant to address this reality, to provide defensive firepower sufficient to stop Soviet armor, to make German positions impregnable. The battalion reaches its deployment area in early May. They take positions in prepared defensive lines, hull down positions where only the Tiger's turret is exposed. The camouflage is extensive, netting and foliage hiding the massive tanks from aerial observation. They wait for the Soviet offensive everyone knows is coming. Whitman uses the waiting time for maintenance. Every day, hours spent checking systems, lubricating components, adjusting tracks, cleaning the gun. The Tiger demands constant attention. Neglect anything, and mechanical failure follows. The crew develops routines, checklists, systematic approaches to maintenance. It's boring work, tedious work, but essential. A broken-down Tiger is just a very expensive pillbox. The Soviets attack on May 12, 1943. Artillery barrage first, thousands of shells falling on German positions, explosions marching across the landscape in systematic patterns. Then the tanks come, waves of T-34s advancing across open ground, dozens visible simultaneously, more appearing behind them. The Soviet tactic is simple, overwhelming. Throw so many tanks at German defenses that sheer numbers achieve breakthrough. Accept losses, trade steel and lives for territorial gains. Whitman's Tiger sits in its hull-down position, invisible to approaching Soviet tanks. He watches through his commander's optics as the T-34s advance. They're moving fast, maybe 30 kilometers per hour, closing distance rapidly. Soviet commanders have learned that speed reduces exposure time, makes them harder targets. They've learned that charging German positions, accepting casualties but maintaining momentum, this works better than cautious advances. At 1,800 meters range, Whitman gives the order. Fire. The 88mm gun roars, the tank rocks back from recoil, and downrange a T-34 explodes. Direct hit, turret blown clean off, flipping through the air trailing smoke. The crew had no warning, no time to react. One moment they're advancing, the next moment they're dead. This is what the 88mm does. At this range, Soviet tanks have no defense. Their target practice. Wall, the gunner, is already acquiring the next target. The loader, warm, slams another round into the breech. 7 seconds between shots. Fire again. Another T-34 brews up, flames erupting from hatches, ammunition cooking off in secondary explosions. The Soviet advance falters momentarily as crews realize they're being engaged from extreme range by something they can't see, can't fight back against. But the Soviets have faced German armor before. They know the drill. They spread out, reduce target density, accelerate toward the German positions. If they can close range, get within 500 meters, their 76mm guns can penetrate most German tanks. They just need to survive long enough to close distance. Whitman's Tiger fires methodically. Third shot, fourth shot, fifth shot. Each shot kills a T-34. Wall doesn't miss. At this range, against targets moving relatively straight, he's firing at nearly point-blank by gunnery standards. The 88mm is accurate to 2,000 meters. These targets are well within that envelope. He's killing tanks the way a hunter shoots targets at a range, calmly, precisely, without drama. The Soviet attack breaks against the Tiger positions. 30 T-34s destroyed without the Tigers moving, without exposing themselves, without taking damage. The surviving Soviet tanks retreat, pulling back beyond visual range, their attack shattered. The battlefield is littered with burning hulks, black smoke rising in columns visible for kilometers. This is the Tiger's promise fulfilled. Invulnerability. Overwhelming firepower. The ability to dominate battlefield ranges, to kill enemies before they can fight back. The German tank crews are jubilant. This is what they've needed, what they've been waiting for. A weapon that makes them superior again. But Whitman doesn't celebrate. He watches the burning T-34s and thinks about numbers. 30 tanks destroyed. Sounds impressive. Except the Soviets have thousands of T-34s. They can afford to lose 30 tanks in a failed attack and launch another attack tomorrow with fresh armor. Germany cannot afford equivalent losses. Germany has maybe 100 Tigers total on the Eastern Front. Lose one Tiger, and it's not replaced for weeks or months. The mathematics trouble him. The Tiger wins every engagement. But winning engagements doesn't win wars. Wars are won by production, by logistics, by the ability to replace losses faster than the enemy. Germany is losing that contest. Soviet factories beyond the Urals produce more tanks, more guns, more ammunition than German industry can match. The Tiger is magnificent, but there aren't enough Tigers. There will never be enough Tigers. The next Soviet attack comes 2 days later. Larger this time, better coordinated. Artillery preparation lasts 3 hours, systematically destroying German forward positions. Then the tanks, maybe 60 T-34s advancing in coordinated waves. They've learned from the first attack. They use smoke, obscuring the battlefield, making long-range shooting difficult. They advance from multiple directions, forcing German defenders to split attention. Whitman's Tiger engages immediately. But the smoke reduces visibility, makes target acquisition harder. He kills 3 T-34s before Soviet tanks close to 800 meters. At this range, they can shoot back. The 76mm guns open fire, dozens of rounds slamming into the Tiger's frontal armor. The impacts sound like massive hammers, metallic crashes that ring through the hull. But the armor holds. The rounds bounce off, ricochet away, achieve nothing except noise and sparks. The psychological effect is devastating for Soviet crews. They're hitting this German tank repeatedly, direct hits, and accomplishing nothing. They see their rounds ricochet, watch the German tank continue firing, methodically destroying T-34s one after another. It's demoralizing, terrifying, proof that they're outmatched. But some Soviet tanks get through. The Tiger positions are strong but not perfect. A few T-34s exploit gaps, flank the defensive line, attack from sides where armor is thinner. One Tiger is hit from the side at 300 meters, 76mm round penetrating the thinner side armor, killing the crew instantly. First Tiger loss of the engagement. Whitman sees it happen, sees the Tiger brew up, sees crew members bail out burning. He shifts his position, exposes his tank to engage the flanking T-34s. His gunner destroys 3 in rapid succession, stopping the penetration. But moving from hull-down position makes his Tiger visible, vulnerable. Soviet anti-tank guns engage, 76mm towed guns concealed in tree lines. Rounds slam into his Tiger's armor. One penetrates the track, immobilizing the tank. Another hits the mantlet, the armor protecting the gun, and jams the turret traverse mechanism. Whitman's Tiger is crippled. Immobile, unable to traverse turret, only the hull machine gun still functional. He orders evacuation. The crew bails out under fire, sprinting for cover while Soviet tanks and anti-tank guns shoot at them. Worm is hit, machine gun fire cutting him down before he reaches safety. The others make it to German lines, exhausted, traumatized, alive. Behind them, Whitman's Tiger sits disabled on the battlefield. Recovery teams will retrieve it tonight if possible, tow it back for repairs. But right now, it's just another piece of destroyed equipment littering the Eastern Front. The King of Tigers, brought down by flanking fire and lucky shots. Invulnerable from the front, yes. But tanks have sides, rears, weak points. And Soviet tankers are learning, adapting, finding ways to kill Tigers despite their overwhelming superiority. The battle ends with Soviet withdrawal. German positions hold. But the cost is evident. 3 Tigers disabled, 1 destroyed completely. Dozens of German soldiers dead. The Soviets lost 40 tanks, hundreds of men. But they'll be back tomorrow, or the day after, with more tanks, more men, more attacks. Because they can afford the losses. Because their production exceeds German production. Because numbers matter more than quality once the quality gap narrows. Whitman and his surviving crew receive a replacement Tiger within a week. The disabled tank is repaired eventually, returned to service. Worm is replaced by a new loader, younger, less experienced, needing training. The crew integrates the new member, teaches him procedures, builds coordination. And they prepare for the next engagement, the next attack, the next desperate defensive battle. May turns to June. The fighting continues without pause. The Tigers establish reputations, kill counts that seem impossible. Whitman personally destroys dozens of Soviet tanks over these weeks. Other Tiger commanders achieve similar results. The battalion's total kills exceed 200 Soviet tanks. The Tiger lives up to its promise, dominates every engagement, proves its superiority repeatedly. But the Soviets keep coming. Fresh divisions appear, replacing destroyed units. New tanks roll off assembly lines, replacing losses. The Soviet war machine grinds forward relentlessly, accepting catastrophic casualties, trading lives and material for incremental gains. The Tigers slow them, bloody them, make them pay terrible prices. But they don't stop them. Nothing stops them. They just keep coming, wave after wave, attack after attack, exhausting German defenders through sheer persistence. Whitman sees the future in these battles. Germany is losing. Not today, not this week, but eventually, inevitably. The numbers don't lie. Soviet production exceeds German production by factors of 5, 10, 15 depending on the weapon system. Soviet population exceeds German population. Soviet territory provides strategic depth Germany cannot match. The Tiger is magnificent, but magnificence isn't enough. You can't win wars with small numbers of perfect weapons against massive numbers of adequate weapons. But he keeps fighting. What else can he do? Surrender means captivity in Soviet camps, which means probable death. Desertion means execution by German military police. Forward is the only direction available. Fight until you're killed, or until the war ends, whichever comes first. These are the options on the Eastern Front in 1943. These are the choices facing every German soldier watching the Soviet steamroller approach. The Tiger roars. The 88mm gun fires. T-34s burn. The battlefield fills with smoke and screams and the smell of burning flesh and fuel. Another day on the Eastern Front. Another battle in a war that has no end in sight. The King of Tigers reigns supreme over every battlefield. But even kings can die. Even the mightiest weapons can be overwhelmed. Even the best tank in the world cannot change the fundamental mathematics of industrial warfare. This is what Whitman understands as summer 1943 approaches, as rumors spread about a massive German offensive being planned, as the Tigers prepare for the largest tank battle in history. The Tiger will win every duel. But wars aren't won by duels. They're won by production lines, by factories, by the grim arithmetic of attrition. And in that contest, Germany has already lost. The Tiger can only delay the inevitable. It cannot change the outcome. The King of Tigers rules a kingdom that's already fallen. He just doesn't know it yet. The King of Tigers, Act 2. July 1943. Kursk. The name will echo through military history forever. The largest tank battle ever fought. The last major German offensive on the Eastern Front. The moment when the Wehrmacht's fate is sealed in fire and steel across the rolling fields of Central Russia. Operation Citadel. The German plan is simple in concept, brutal in execution. A massive pincer attack against the Soviet salient around Kursk. Army Group South attacks from the south, Army Group Center from the north. Meet in the middle, trap hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers, destroy them, recapture initiative, prove Germany can still win. The Soviets know it's coming. Soviet intelligence is excellent, German security terrible. Stalin knows the attack date weeks in advance. He knows the axis of advance, the units involved, the objectives. The Soviets prepare accordingly. They construct defensive lines in depth, multiple belts of fortifications, minefields, anti-tank ditches, artillery positions. They position their best units, their newest tanks, their most experienced commanders. They're ready. They're waiting. They want this battle. Because they know they can win it. Michael Whitman's Tiger Battalion is assigned to the Southern Pincer, part of 2 SS Panzer Corps. The concentration of armor here is staggering. Over 900 tanks, including 200 Panthers, the newest German medium tank, and nearly 90 Tigers. The Panthers are beautiful machines, excellent guns, good armor, but they're plagued by mechanical problems. Brand new design rushed into production, the teething troubles are severe. Half the Panthers break down before reaching the battlefield. The Tigers are more reliable by comparison, though that's not saying much. The preparation is methodical. Supply dumps are established, fuel and ammunition stockpiled. Artillery positions are surveyed and registered. Infantry rehearse assault tactics. Tank crews study terrain maps, memorize routes, identify objectives. The German military machine, for all its strategic failures, still excels at tactical preparation. The attention to detail is impressive, almost beautiful in its thoroughness. But the delay is fatal. The offensive was supposed to begin in May, when Rasputitsa ended and ground hardened. But Hitler delayed, wanting to wait for more Panthers, more Tigers, more weapons. The delay gave the Soviets 3 months to prepare. 3 months to dig trenches, lay mines, position guns, build the most formidable defensive system in military history. The Germans are attacking into a kill zone designed specifically to destroy them. July 5, 1943. 3 a.m. The German artillery barrage begins. Thousands of guns firing simultaneously, the sound like continuous thunder, shells arcing through the darkness towards Soviet positions. The ground shakes from the bombardment. Sleep is impossible, thought is difficult, only the overwhelming noise exists. This is the overture to Citadel. This is Germany announcing its presence, its power, its intention to smash through whatever stands in its way. But the Soviets respond with their own barrage. Counter-battery fire, Soviet artillery targeting German assembly areas, catching German infantry in the open, destroying vehicles, creating chaos before the attack even begins. The Germans didn't expect this. They thought they'd achieve surprise. But the Soviets were waiting, guns aimed, ready to respond immediately. At 5 a.m., the tanks advance. Whitman's Tiger moves forward with dozens of others, an armored wave rolling across the steppe toward Soviet positions. The morning light is gray, visibility poor, smoke from artillery mixing with ground fog. The Tigers advance in formation, maintaining cohesion, covering each other. Infantry follows in half-tracks, ready to support the armor, to clear anti-tank positions, to exploit breakthroughs. The first obstacle is minefields. Massive belts of anti-tank mines, thousands of them, covering the approaches to Soviet positions. Combat engineers move forward with mine detectors, marking safe lanes, clearing paths for the armor. It's slow work, deadly work. Soviet artillery targets the engineers, killing them faster than replacements can move forward. Some tank commanders decide to risk the mines, drive through them, accept losses to maintain momentum. Panthers hit mines and blow tracks, immobilizing immediately. Tigers hit mines and usually survive, the armor thick enough to withstand most mine blasts, though tracks are damaged, requiring field repairs. Whitman's Tiger navigates a cleared lane, moving slowly, watching for mines the engineers missed. The tension is unbearable. Any moment could bring an explosion, immobilization, vulnerability. But they make it through, emerging on the far side of the minefield intact. Ahead, Soviet positions become visible. Trenches, bunkers, anti-tank gun positions, all camouflaged but identifiable to experienced eyes. The Soviet anti-tank guns open fire at 800 meters. Dozens of guns, 76mm Sis-3s, deadly accurate, positioned in mutually supporting positions. Rounds slam into advancing German armor. Panthers are hit and brew up, their frontal armor inadequate against massed anti-tank fire at medium range. Panzer IVs die even faster, their thinner armor no match for Soviet guns. But the Tigers absorb the fire, rounds bouncing off frontal armor, the tanks continuing to advance. Whitman's gunner acquires targets, begins destroying Soviet positions systematically. The 88mm tears apart gun emplacements, kills crews, silences positions. But there are so many positions. Destroy one, two more engage. The density of Soviet defenses is overwhelming. This isn't the scattered defenses of 1941, or even the improved defenses of 1942. This is industrial-scale fortification, defensive positions constructed with engineering precision and unlimited manpower. Soviet infantry emerge from trenches with anti-tank rifles, RPG-43 anti-tank grenades, Molotov cocktails. They're brave, suicidally brave, charging German tanks on foot. Most die, cut down by machine gun fire from German tanks and infantry. But some get close enough to attack. A Soviet soldier throws himself under a Panther, exploding an anti-tank mine strapped to his chest, destroying the tank's tracks and himself. Another climbs onto a Tiger's engine deck, drops grenades into the engine compartment, sets the engine on fire before being shot by German infantry. These aren't soldiers fighting for territory. These are soldiers fighting for survival, for their homeland, with desperate courage born of rage and necessity. The German advance grinds forward meter by meter. Casualties mount steadily. The Tigers prove their worth, killing dozens of Soviet tanks and anti-tank guns. But the cost is terrible. Infantry companies are shredded by Soviet artillery and machine gun fire. Panthers break down or burn, their mechanical unreliability proving catastrophic in sustained combat. Panzer IVs are destroyed wholesale, their obsolescence evident against modern Soviet defenses. By evening of the first day, the southern pincer has advanced maybe 8 kilometers. 8 kilometers through 3 defensive belts, paid for with hundreds of German casualties and dozens of destroyed vehicles. The Soviets fall back to the next defensive line, prepared positions even stronger than the first. The Germans consolidate, establish defensive positions, prepare to attack again tomorrow. Medical teams work through the night treating wounded. Repair crews work on damaged tanks, replacing tracks, patching armor, restoring combat effectiveness where possible. Whitman's Tiger survives the day intact. His crew is exhausted, deafened by constant noise, traumatized by the intensity of combat. They've destroyed 11 Soviet tanks and 6 anti-tank guns. Impressive numbers. But Whitman sees the bigger picture. The battalion lost 8 Tigers today, destroyed or damaged beyond field repair. 8 Tigers in one day. At this rate, the battalion will cease to exist within a week. The mathematics are brutal, unsustainable. The second day is worse. The Soviets have reinforced their positions overnight, brought up fresh divisions, positioned their best tanks. The T-34s are upgraded now, some mounting 85mm guns capable of penetrating Tiger frontal armor at medium ranges. The KV-1s are replaced by newer IS-2 heavy tanks, 122mm guns that can destroy any German tank with a single hit. The technological gap is closing. The Tiger's superiority is diminishing. The German attack resumes at dawn. Artillery preparation, then the armored advance, then the grinding combat through prepared defenses. Whitman's Tiger advances with the main effort, spearheading the assault. They encounter a position defended by IS-2 heavy tanks, hull down, camouflaged, invisible until they fire. The first shot kills a Tiger 200 meters from Whitman, penetrating frontal armor that's supposed to be invulnerable. The entire crew dies instantly, the penetration catastrophic. Whitman spots the IS-2's muzzle flash, identifies its position. He orders fire. The 88mm hits the IS-2's turret, penetrating, detonating ammunition. The Soviet tank explodes violently, turret blown completely off. But there are more IS-2s, 4 more, engaging from multiple positions. The Tiger formation takes fire from several directions simultaneously. 2 more Tigers are hit and destroyed. The formation falters, loses cohesion, individual tanks maneuvering desperately to avoid fire. Whitman's driver, Reimers, throws the Tiger into reverse, backing behind a low ridge that provides cover. They're temporarily safe but unable to advance. Soviet artillery begins falling, bracketing their position, adjusting fire. They need to move or die. Whitman orders advance to the left, trying to flank the IS-2 positions. The Tiger lurches forward, engine roaring, 56 tons of armor moving with surprising agility. They emerge from cover, present their side to one of the IS-2s. Fatal mistake. The 122mm gun fires. The round hits the Tiger's side armor at a steep angle, should ricochet, should fail to penetrate. But it doesn't. The shell punches through, enters the fighting compartment, doesn't explode immediately. It ricochets inside the hull, destroying equipment, wounding crew members, creating chaos. The loader, the replacement for Warm, is killed instantly. The gunner is badly wounded, unconscious, bleeding. The radio operator is screaming, his legs shattered by shrapnel. The Tiger is combat ineffective. Whitman makes the decision instantly. Evacuate. He and Reimers pull the wounded crew members out through hatches, drag them away from the tank under fire. Soviet machine guns rake the area. Reimers is hit in the shoulder but keeps moving, adrenaline overriding pain. They reach a shell crater, drop into it, find German infantry already sheltering there. The wounded need immediate medical attention. The radio operator might survive if he reaches aid station quickly. The gunner is unconscious, status uncertain. Whitman leaves them with infantry, promises to send medics, then low-crawls back toward German lines through smoke and confusion. Artillery continues falling, tanks burn all around, the battlefield is hell realized in metal and fire. He reaches the command post by mid-afternoon. Reports to his battalion commander, describes the situation, the destroyed Tigers, the wounded crews, the defensive strength. The commander listens without expression. He's received similar reports from other units. The offensive is failing. Losses exceed projections. Progress is minimal. The Soviet defenses are too strong, too deep, too well prepared. But orders from higher command are clear: continue attacking, achieve breakthrough, win the battle. Whitman is assigned a new Tiger, a replacement machine pulled from battalion reserves. He's given a replacement crew, survivors from destroyed tanks, men he's never worked with before. There's no time for training, for building coordination. They're needed immediately, the battalion is under strength, every operational Tiger matters. He briefs the new crew quickly, explains procedures, emphasizes teamwork. They're frightened, these replacement crew members, they've seen Tigers destroyed, seen crews die, they know the Tiger's invulnerability is myth, propaganda, wishful thinking. But they climb into the tank, take their positions, prepare for combat. Because orders exist, because the offensive continues, because individual fears don't matter when armies are committed. The Tiger's engine starts, the familiar roar, the vibration through metal. Whitman gives orders, the driver advances, they rejoin the battle. The next 3 days blur together. Continuous combat, brief rest periods, constant casualties. The German offensive achieves some penetration, advances maybe 20 kilometers total. But the cost is catastrophic. Hundreds of tanks destroyed, thousands of soldiers killed, entire divisions bled white. The Tigers continue to perform well tactically, killing multiple Soviet tanks for each Tiger lost. But the strategic situation is hopeless. The Soviets have reserves, fresh divisions moving up from rear areas. Germany has no reserves. Every tank lost is irreplaceable. Every soldier killed leaves a gap that cannot be filled. On July 12, Soviet counteroffensives begin in other sectors. Fresh Soviet armies attack German positions far to the north, threatening breakthrough, threatening encirclement. Hitler panics, orders Operation Citadel suspended, orders units diverted to meet the new threats. The Kursk offensive ends not with victory or even honorable defeat, but with cancellation, abandonment, admission of failure. The German forces withdraw, pulling back from positions bought with blood, leaving their dead behind, their destroyed vehicles, their shattered hopes. The Tigers cover the withdrawal, fighting rearguard actions, destroying Soviet tanks that pursue too aggressively. Whitman's Tiger survives the battle, one of the few Tigers that entered combat on July 5 still operational on July 15. The accounting is devastating. The Tiger battalion entered Kursk with 90 Tigers operational. They withdraw with 34. 56 Tigers destroyed or damaged beyond repair in 10 days. The entire battalion effectively destroyed, requiring months to rebuild, refit, return to combat effectiveness. And this is considered acceptable because other units suffered worse casualties. The Soviets lost thousands of tanks at Kursk. But they replaced them within weeks. Soviet factories produced tanks faster than the Wehrmacht could destroy them. The mathematical impossibility of German victory becomes undeniable. You cannot win a war of attrition when the enemy can replace losses and you cannot. The Tiger is the best tank in the world, but there will never be enough Tigers. The Panther might become excellent eventually, but right now it's unreliable and there aren't enough Panthers either. The Panzer IV is obsolete. Germany's armor advantage, such as it was, is gone. Wittmann sits on his Tiger after the battle, after the withdrawal, after the end of German offensive capability on the Eastern Front. His uniform is filthy, soaked with sweat and blood and oil. He hasn't slept properly in 10 days. He's lost 2 complete crews to death and wounds. He's destroyed over 30 Soviet tanks personally, maybe more, he's lost count. And Germany is still losing. The realization is crushing. He's done everything right, followed every procedure, fought with maximum skill and courage. His Tiger performed magnificently, killed everything it engaged, survived damage that would destroy lesser tanks. But none of it matters. The strategic situation is hopeless. The war is lost. Maybe not today, maybe not this month, but inevitably, inexorably, Germany is losing. But the war doesn't end at Kursk. The fighting continues. The Soviets begin their own offensives, pushing west, liberating territory the Germans conquered in 1941 and 1942. The Tigers are assigned to defensive positions, mobile reserves rush to threatened sectors, plugging gaps, stopping breakthroughs, buying time for retreating German forces. August and September pass in continuous combat. The Tigers are shuttled from crisis to crisis, always outnumbered, always fighting desperate defensive actions. Wittmann's kill count climbs steadily. 40 tanks destroyed, then 50, then 60. He becomes famous, featured in propaganda, awarded medals, celebrated as a hero. The Knight's Cross, then oak leaves, decorations piling up. Wehrmacht publicity needs heroes, needs success stories, needs proof that individual German soldiers remain superior even as armies retreat. But Wittmann knows the truth. He's killing Soviet tanks at an impressive rate and it doesn't matter. The Soviets have more tanks. They'll always have more tanks. His personal skill, his crew's effectiveness, the Tiger's capabilities, these are tactical advantages in a strategic catastrophe. You can win every battle and still lose the war. Germany is proving this principle definitively. October 1943. The Soviets reached the Dnieper River, the last major defensive line before Poland. The German army establishes defensive positions along the river, attempts to hold, to create a stable front. The Tigers are positioned at critical points, ready to counterattack any Soviet bridgehead. The doctrine is clear: allow Soviets to cross, let them establish small bridgeheads, then smash them with concentrated armor before they can reinforce. It doesn't work. The Soviets cross in too many places simultaneously. They establish dozens of bridgeheads faster than German reserves can respond. They pour troops and tanks across pontoon bridges, ferries, anything that floats. The Dnieper line, which should hold for months, collapses in weeks. The Tigers fight desperate battles at multiple crossing points, destroying Soviet tanks and infantry, slowing the advance. But slowing isn't stopping. The Soviet tide keeps rising. Wittmann fights at a bridgehead near Dnipropetrovsk. His Tiger destroys 8 Soviet tanks in one engagement, stops a Soviet armored thrust cold. But the bridgehead expands in other directions, Soviet forces flowing around the Tiger positions, threatening encirclement. The Tigers withdraw again, retreat west again, leave more territory to the Soviets. By December, the front has moved 200 kilometers west. Ukraine is being liberated by Soviet forces, city by city, village by village. The German retreat is orderly but continuous. They're not routed, not panicked, but they're definitely losing. The Tiger crews joke darkly that they're masters of tactical withdrawal, undefeated in reverse gear. The humor is black, bitter, the only defense against despair. Whitman ends 1943 with 88 confirmed tank kills. 88 enemy tanks destroyed in 1 year of continuous combat. It's an extraordinary achievement, proof of skill and courage and the Tiger's lethality. The propaganda makes much of it, articles in newspapers, radio interviews, his face on recruiting posters. He's the king of tigers, the ace of aces, proof of German superiority. But he knows better. He knows 88 tanks destroyed means nothing when the Soviets field thousands. He knows his survival is luck more than skill, that every battle is Russian roulette, that eventually his luck will run out. He knows Germany is losing, that the Eastern Front is collapsing, that the Tiger battalions are being ground down through attrition despite their tactical superiority. He knows, but he keeps fighting. Because what else is there? Surrender means captivity, probably death in Soviet camps. Desertion means execution by German military police. The only direction is forward, or rather backward, retreating west toward Germany, fighting every step of the way, hoping somehow the war ends before his luck expires, knowing that hope is increasingly unrealistic. The King of Tigers reigns over a shrinking kingdom. His throne is a metal box filled with ammunition and fuel. His subjects are 4 crew members who might die tomorrow. His kingdom extends exactly as far as his 88mm gun can reach, and that kingdom shrinks every day as Germany retreats, as Soviet armies advance, as the mathematics of industrial warfare grind German military power into dust. He's the best tank commander in the world, fighting the best tank in the world, and it's not enough. It will never be enough. The numbers don't lie. And the numbers say Germany has already lost. The King of Tigers, Act 3. January 1944. The Eastern Front has become a nightmare of continuous retreat. The Wehrmacht falls back across Ukraine, through mud and snow, harassed constantly by Soviet forces that never pause, never rest, never grant the Germans time to establish stable defensive lines. The blitzkrieg that conquered Europe in weeks now operates in reverse, Soviet armies executing deep operations, encircling German units, destroying entire divisions. The hunter has become the hunted. Michael Whitman's Tiger Battalion is transferred west in February. Not west toward Germany, not home, but west to France. To Normandy. The transfer comes as shock, almost insulting. They've spent 2 years fighting the Soviets, bleeding in Russia, becoming experts in Eastern Front warfare. Now they're being pulled out, sent to occupy comfortable France while their comrades continue dying in the East. The official explanation is rest and refit, recovery time, absorption of replacement personnel and equipment. The unofficial reason is clearer: the Western Allies are coming. Intelligence reports massive buildup in Britain. Invasion is inevitable, probably summer 1944. Germany needs its best units positioned to defend France. The contrast is jarring. France is peaceful, almost untouched by war. The cities are intact, the countryside beautiful, the population sullen but non-violent. After the Eastern Front, France feels like vacation. There's food, real food, not just black bread and watery soup. There's wine, comfortable billets, French women who tolerate German soldiers for money or survival. The Tiger crews decompress slowly, their bodies relaxing even as their minds remain trapped in Russia, replaying battles, remembering dead comrades. Whitman tries to adjust. He's promoted to Hauptsturmführer, equivalent to captain, given command of a company. He's awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves and swords, one of Germany's highest decorations. He's featured in newsreels, his face projected in cinemas across Germany, proof that heroes still exist, that German soldiers still excel. The propaganda machine celebrates him relentlessly. The King of Tigers, Ace of Aces, the man who destroyed 117 enemy tanks. The number has grown through aggressive accounting, including probable kills, damaged vehicles, everything that makes the tally more impressive. But Whitman feels hollow. The decorations mean nothing. The publicity is embarrassing. He's praised for killing Soviet tanks while the Soviet army drives toward Germany, liberating their territory, preparing to invade the Reich itself. He destroyed 117 tanks and the Soviets have 20,000 more. The arithmetic makes his achievements meaningless, individual excellence rendered irrelevant by industrial-scale warfare. He trains new crews in France, passes on hard-earned knowledge. He teaches them Tiger Doctrine, the tactics that kept him alive through 2 years of combat. Maintain distance, use the 88mm gun's range advantage, never close unnecessarily. Protect the flanks and rear, the Tiger's vulnerable points. Work with infantry, tanks alone die quickly. Stay mobile, static Tigers become targets for artillery and air attack. Maintain the machine obsessively, mechanical failure kills more Tigers than enemy fire. The new crews listen respectfully. They're young, most under 20, fresh from training schools, eager and terrified. They see Whitman as legend, the famous tank ace, the hero from newsreels. He tries to dispel the mythology, to explain that survival is mostly luck, that the Tiger's reputation exceeds reality, that they should expect to die because most tank crews do. But they don't really hear him. They hear the legend, not the man. They want to believe the Tiger is invincible, that German skill defeats enemy numbers, that individual excellence matters. He remembers believing these things himself, back in 1941, before reality taught him otherwise. June 6, 1944. The invasion begins. Allied forces land on Normandy beaches, establishing beachheads, pouring troops and equipment ashore. The German response is confused, delayed, inadequate. Hitler initially believes it's a feint, that the real invasion will come at Calais. He refuses to release armored reserves, keeping them positioned elsewhere. By the time the reserves are committed, the Allies are established, their beachheads secure, their logistics functioning. Whitman's battalion moves toward the invasion zone in mid-June. The journey is difficult. Allied air superiority is absolute. Typhoon fighter bombers hunt German armor relentlessly, rocketing anything that moves. The Tigers travel by night, hide during day under camouflage nets and tree cover. Progress is measured in kilometers, not the swift advances the Wehrmacht once executed across France in 1940. The Luftwaffe is absent, overwhelmed, incapable of challenging Allied air dominance. German soldiers learn to fear clear skies, to pray for clouds and rain that ground Allied aircraft. The battalion reaches the front on June 12. The tactical situation is chaos. Allied forces are expanding their beachhead, pushing inland, threatening Caen, a crucial road junction. British armor, Churchill and Cromwell tanks, probe German positions, testing defenses, seeking weaknesses. American forces push west, cutting off the Cotentin Peninsula. The German defense is stubborn but disorganized, units arriving piecemeal, commitment of reserves delayed by Hitler's interference. June 13, near Villers-Bocage. Whitman's company is positioned in defensive positions covering approaches to the town. British forces are reported advancing, a armored column, possibly regimental strength. The morning is overcast, visibility poor, perfect conditions for German forces operating without air cover. Whitman's Tiger sits in ambush position, concealed behind hedgerows characteristic of Normandy's bocage terrain. The British column appears around 8 a.m. Cromwell tanks, half-tracks carrying infantry, support vehicles, all moving in road column, peacetime formation, completely inappropriate for combat zones. They're not expecting contact, not prepared for ambush. The lead elements enter the kill zone. Whitman makes a decision that will become legendary. He'll attack alone, without supporting forces, without infantry, without coordination. Single Tiger against an entire British column. It's tactically insane, violates every principle he teaches. But the opportunity is perfect, the British completely exposed, their vulnerability absolute. He orders his driver forward. The Tiger lurches out of concealment, swings onto the road behind the British column. The 88mm gun traverses, acquires the rear vehicle, fires. The half-track explodes. Before the British can react, the Tiger advances, firing systematically. Cromwell, destroyed. Half-track, destroyed. Another Cromwell, another half-track. The Tiger drives down the column like a farmer harvesting wheat, methodically destroying each vehicle in sequence. The British panic. Some crews bail out immediately, running for hedgerows. Others try to fight, traverse turrets, acquire the Tiger. But they're in road column, unable to maneuver, blocking each other. The Tiger has perfect firing positions, point-blank range, stationary targets. The 88mm tears through British armor like paper. Cromwells brew up, flames erupting from hatches. Half-tracks burn, ammunition cooking off. Supply trucks explode. The destruction is systematic, thorough, devastating. Whitman's Tiger reaches the head of the column, turns, begins working back down the opposite side. Any vehicle he missed on the first pass, he destroys on the second. The British are trapped, unable to retreat because destroyed vehicles block the road, unable to advance for the same reason, unable to deploy off-road because bocage hedgerows are too thick for tanks to penetrate. They're helpless, lined up for slaughter, dying without ability to fight back. The engagement lasts perhaps 15 minutes. When it ends, dozens of British vehicles burn along the road. The exact count will be disputed for decades. German propaganda claims Whitman destroyed over 20 tanks and numerous support vehicles. British records acknowledge significant losses but dispute the numbers. Reality is probably somewhere between, maybe 15 tanks, equal number of half-tracks and other vehicles. Regardless of exact count, the result is undeniable. One Tiger, operating alone, destroyed a British armored column, stopped an advance, created chaos in Allied lines. The propaganda value is enormous. Germany desperately needs good news. The Eastern Front is collapsing, the Western Front barely holding, strategic bombing destroying German cities. Whitman's action at Villers-Bocage provides proof that German soldiers can still win, that individual excellence still matters, that the Allied invasion can be stopped. Newsreels feature dramatic recreations. Radio broadcasts describe the battle in heroic terms. Newspapers print his photograph above fold, the King of Tigers strikes again, one man stopping an army. Whitman knows better. He exploited British mistakes, caught them unprepared, executed a perfect ambush. Any competent Tiger crew could have achieved similar results given the same opportunity. The British learned from this disaster, never again advanced in road column through combat zones, deployed scouts, maintained dispersion, anticipated ambush. The tactical lesson cost them one column. They could afford the loss. They had hundreds more tanks, thousands more soldiers, unlimited supplies flowing across the channel. But the propaganda doesn't mention this. The propaganda presents Villers-Bocage as decisive victory, proof of German superiority. And soldiers like Whitman, they become symbols, representatives of German military excellence. His actual opinions don't matter. His understanding of strategic reality is irrelevant. He's useful as symbol, as propaganda tool, as temporary morale boost for a nation losing on every front. The fighting in Normandy intensifies through June and July. The Allies build up forces faster than Germans can reinforce. Allied artillery is overwhelming, thousands of guns firing coordinated bombardments that destroy German positions. Allied air power dominates completely, typhoons and thunderbolts hunting German armor constantly. The Tigers inflict casualties, destroy Allied tanks in impressive numbers, but they cannot stop the advance. The mathematics remain brutal. Allies lose 10 tanks, they replace them overnight. Germans lose one Tiger, it's irreplaceable. Whitman's company is ground down through continuous combat. Tigers are destroyed by artillery, by air attack, by coordinated Allied tank assaults. The crews he trained die, burned alive in knocked-out Tigers, their bodies left in burned-out hulks. The replacements arrive and die just as quickly. The company shrinks, 5 Tigers becoming 4, then 3, then 2. The maintenance burden is crushing, the Tigers constantly damaged, requiring repairs under combat conditions, mechanics working under fire to restore combat effectiveness. August 1944. The Allied breakout from Normandy begins. American forces punch through German lines at St. Lo, pour through the gap, race across France. British and Canadian forces push south from Caen. The German position collapses. Entire divisions are encircled in the Falaise pocket, destroyed by artillery and air attack, the survivors surrendering in tens of thousands. The Wehrmacht in France is shattered, its combat power destroyed, retreat the only option. Whitman's company is assigned to cover the retreat, fighting rearguard actions, buying time for German forces to escape encirclement. They're positioned near the village of Gomsnil, covering roads the Allies need to complete their encirclement. The defensive position is weak, insufficient infantry support, inadequate artillery, no air cover. But orders are orders. Hold as long as possible. Delay the Allied advance. Accept casualties if necessary. August 8, 1944. Morning. Overcast skies, occasional rain. Poor visibility, at least that grounds Allied aircraft temporarily. Whitman's Tiger, number 007, is positioned in an orchard, hull down, camouflaged with branches and netting. His crew is exhausted, they've been fighting continuously for 2 months, sleeping in the tank, eating cold rations, barely maintaining hygiene. They're physically depleted, mentally numb, operating on instinct and training. Allied forces approach around 10 a.m. British and Canadian armor, Sherman tanks, numerous, advancing cautiously. They've learned to respect German anti-tank capabilities, learned that Tigers lurk in every tree lean. They advance with infantry support, artillery on call, tactics cautious and methodical. This is how the Allies fight now, carefully, accepting slow progress to minimize casualties, using firepower rather than maneuver. Whitman's Tiger engages at 800 meters. First shot destroys a Sherman. The British column halts, deploys, begins returning fire. Dozens of Shermans, far more than intelligence reported. The Tiger kills another Sherman, then another. But the return fire is intense, hundreds of rounds slamming into the orchard, high explosive and armor-piercing, the noise deafening. The Tiger is hit multiple times, rounds bouncing off frontal armor, but the cumulative damage is concerning. The camouflage is destroyed, the Tiger fully visible now. Allied artillery joins the engagement. Heavy guns, probably 155 mm, firing on coordinates provided by forward observers. The first salvo falls short. The second salvo brackets the Tiger's position. The third salvo is direct. Multiple shells impact around the Tiger, shrapnel sleeting through the orchard. One shell hits the Tiger's engine deck, penetrates the thin top armor, detonates inside the engine compartment. The Maybach engine erupts in flames. Fuel lines rupture, fire spreads rapidly. Whitman orders evacuation immediately. The crew bails out, escaping through hatches while fire consumes the Tiger's rear. They sprint away from the burning tank, expecting it to explode when flames reach ammunition. They're maybe 30 meters away when another artillery salvo falls. The shells land directly on the fleeing crew. The explosions are massive, high-explosive shells designed to destroy bunkers and fortifications. The crew members are killed instantly, bodies torn apart by shrapnel and overpressure. Michael Whitman dies in a French orchard, killed by artillery fire while evacuating his burning Tiger. He's 30 years old. He's destroyed 138 enemy tanks according to German records, probably fewer in reality but still an extraordinary total. He's won every major decoration Germany awards. He's famous, celebrated, proof of German military excellence. And he dies like most soldiers die, randomly, suddenly, without drama or final words. One moment he's alive, running from a burning tank. The next moment he's dead, torn apart by shellfire, his body unrecognizable. The Tiger burns throughout the day. Allied forces advance past it, barely noticing one more destroyed German tank among thousands littering Normandy. The body is buried quickly, mass grave, no marker, no ceremony. The German military records list him as missing initially, then killed in action. The propaganda machine suppresses the news temporarily, doesn't want to admit the famous ace is dead. Eventually they acknowledge it, frame his death as heroic last stand, proof of German soldiers' courage and sacrifice. But the truth is simpler and sadder. Whitman died because Germany lost. The Tiger couldn't save Germany. Individual excellence couldn't overcome industrial supremacy. Tactical victories couldn't produce strategic success. All the skills, all the courage, all the decorations, meaningless against Allied material superiority. The King of Tigers died because his kingdom fell. The best tank commander in the world couldn't change that fundamental reality. The Tiger itself, number 007, is examined by Allied technical teams after the battle. They photograph it, measure armor thickness, study the gun, analyze the design. Their conclusion is professional and damning. The Tiger is indeed an excellent tank, well-armed and well-armored. But it's over-engineered, too complex, too heavy, too expensive, too difficult to produce in quantity. The Sherman is inferior in direct combat but superior strategically because Americans produce them by thousands. The T-34 is crude compared to the Tiger but the Soviets build them faster than Germans can destroy them. The technical teams dismantle Whitman's Tiger, ship components to Britain and America for further study. The hull is cut up for scrap eventually, melted down, the steel recycled. The tank that terrorized Allied forces, that destroyed over 100 enemy vehicles, that made Whitman famous, it ends as anonymous scrap metal. Nothing remains except photographs, records, memories. The survivors from Whitman's battalion, the few who escaped Normandy, they retreat across France, across the Rhine, back into Germany. They fight until war's end, defending German soil against Allied and Soviet armies. Most die in the final battles. A handful survive to captivity, eventual release, return to destroyed homeland. They carry memories of Whitman, stories about the famous ace, the commander who seemed invincible until he wasn't. The Tiger tank continues production until war's end but in decreasing numbers. Germany produces maybe 1,350 Tigers total across all variants. The Soviets produce over 60,000 T-34s. The Americans produce nearly 50,000 Shermans. The numbers tell the story better than any battle narrative. Quality cannot defeat quantity when the quality gap narrows and the quantity gap is insurmountable. Post-war, Whitman becomes legend. Military historians study his tactics, analyze his battles, debate his actual kill count. Books are written, documentaries filmed, his actions at Villers-Bocage recreated in detail. He's presented as the ideal tank commander, proof of what skill and courage can achieve. The Tiger itself becomes legendary, the most famous tank of World War II, symbol of German engineering excellence and tactical prowess. But the real lesson is darker. Whitman and his Tiger represent everything Germany got wrong strategically. Over-engineering when simplicity was needed. Perfectionism when adequacy would suffice. Focus on individual excellence when mass production mattered more. The Tiger was magnificent and Germany lost. Whitman was brilliant and Germany lost. Because wars aren't won by magnificent weapons or brilliant soldiers. They're won by logistics, production, resources, the brutal mathematics of industrial warfare. 70 years after Whitman's death, his grave is located in a military cemetery in Normandy. The French authorities identified his remains through dental records, reburied him properly with full military honors despite his nationality. Thousands visit annually, tank enthusiasts, military historians, people fascinated by World War II. They photograph the headstone, leave flowers, pay respects to an enemy soldier who died defending a cause that deserved to lose. The Tiger tanks themselves survive in museums worldwide. Carefully restored, painted in authentic colors, displayed behind velvet ropes. Children climb on them, pose for photographs, marvel at their size and power. The museum placards explain specifications, combat record, technical innovations. They mention Whitman usually, the famous ace who commanded Tigers. They present the Tiger as remarkable achievement in military engineering. What the placards don't mention is that the Tiger represents failure. Not engineering failure, but strategic failure. Germany invested enormous resources producing 1,350 Tigers when that same investment could have produced 10,000 adequate tanks. They prioritized perfection over production, quality over quantity, individual excellence over mass mobilization. And they lost. The Tiger won every battle and lost the war. Whitman destroyed 138 enemy tanks and died anyway, killed by anonymous artillery fire in a forgotten French orchard. The King of Tigers reigned over a kingdom built on lies. The lie that German soldiers were superior. The lie that better equipment could defeat greater numbers. The lie that individual heroism mattered more than industrial capacity. Whitman believed these lies because he was raised in a culture that celebrated them. He fought brilliantly within a system designed to lose. He achieved legendary status in a doomed cause. His legacy is complicated. He was extraordinarily skilled, undeniably brave, tactically excellent. He was also fighting for a regime that committed genocide, started aggressive war, destroyed Europe. His military achievements can be studied and admired without endorsing the cause he served. This is the uncomfortable truth about soldiers like Whitman. They can be personally admirable while serving something evil. The two things coexist, contradictory but undeniable. The Tiger roars no more. The engines are silent, museum pieces, carefully preserved but lifeless. The 88mm guns will never fire again. The armor that seemed invulnerable is now just thick steel, impressive but obsolete. The tank that defined armored warfare for a generation is reduced to artifact, curiosity, reminder of a war that ended 8 decades ago. Michael Whitman lies in French soil, far from his German homeland, surrounded by thousands of other German soldiers who died in Normandy. The King of Tigers rests in a kingdom he tried to defend but could not save. His reign ended in fire and shrapnel on a rainy August morning. The legend outlived the man. The Tiger outlived its usefulness. The war they fought ended in total defeat. This is the truth the museums don't emphasize. Excellence isn't enough. Skill isn't enough. Courage isn't enough. The best tank in the world, commanded by the best tank ace in the world, couldn't change the fundamental fact that Germany lacked the industrial capacity, the resources, the manpower to win. The King of Tigers discovered what all kings eventually learn. Kingdoms fall. Reigns end. And history judges not by individual battles won but by wars lost. The Tiger was magnificent. Germany still lost. And that's the only verdict that matters.